Hello, Title Tribe. Welcome back to TGIF. This is Season 2, Episode 6, I do believe, Week 7 of TGIF, your weekly injury update show. And I am here with my man, George Reed. That is at George Reed FF. George was able to take some time off today. We're able to record a little early and be able to enjoy our evening. So what's going on with you today, George?
Oh, not much. Decided to take the day off from work, like you said. Went got a nice fresh haircut. Got the beard trimmed up a little bit.
Yep.
Spent some time with my wife at the park for lunch. Sent her off to go earn some money to pay my bills, and I got the rest of the day just me and the dog. It's actually kind of nice.
There you go. I feel bad for the dog, but here we go.
They love it. As soon as we're done with this, I'm going to load all three of them up in the truck, take them to the park, let them run around the park for a little bit. They love it.
That's awesome. All right, so TGIF, it's all about the injuries. We will get to our injury updates here in just a moment. Real quick, I do want to plug Rival, though. If you look down below my chin here, we've got joinrival.com/Title Tribe. It's the newest evolution in fantasy sports betting. We are getting literally dozens of people signed up for Rival through that link alone. And if you click on that link and you join that link, you can your first deposit of up to $200 will be matched by Rival. So if you deposit $200, you're going to get $400 worth to gamble with, and then an additional $25 in extra bonus gambling money just for using that link, joinrival.com/Title Tribe. We even have our own special channel in our Gilded chat where we have over 200 people in the Gilded channel right now, or in the Gilded app right now, that are all talking football, fantasy football, college football, some other random stuff at times. It gets to be a very exciting chat, but it's popping all the time, and that's free to join. And that's the best way to join the Gilded is to get a hold of one of us at George Reed FF _, at Justin FF _, at Coach Sheps, all on Twitter is probably, X is probably the best way to get a hold of us, and we can get you set up on the Gilded. But George, this is an injury show. We should probably talk injuries. Last week, I was having a rough week, and you were gracious enough to hop on and do a solo show, and you took care of this show for me, and I do appreciate that. But while you were doing that show, I had announced to our Gilded members that anybody that jumped in and commented in the chat on that episode between the live premiere, which we do at 6 p.m. on Fridays, all the way up until when we record this episode, I'd get them thrown in for a free Toilets Titles cap. So we've got a hat here, Toilets Titles hat with the logo there. That's from the flagship show, Toilets Titles, not the network logo. But I will be giving that away later on at the end of this show. So there's a number of people. I think we have 8 eligible for the hat. So. Remind me, George. Don't let me forget to give that away at the end of the show.
I got you. I won't forget.
All right. Let's get started, though. Let's, George, if you want, I'll go ahead and start with you. If you want to go ahead and start reading off these quarterbacks and see where we're at.
So we got a couple that are injured, but they're on bye. So I'll throw them out there first. Just get the guys who are not playing this week completely out of the way. Ryan Tannehill suffered an ankle injury. It's a right high ankle sprain. We've been talking about high ankle sprains most of the year. It's anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks is what they're actually going to miss in playing time. And then on top of that, it's typically 4 to 6 weeks before you see them actually back to close to 100% to what they were prior to the ankle sprain. I don't think anybody was really counting on Ryan Tannehill outside of super flex leagues. So it's not a super, super big deal, but it is just something to throw on your radar. The other one we got is Joe Burrow. He's still dealing with that calf injury. He's on bye. At this point, I have no concerns, especially coming back after the bye. He might not be 100%, but he's going to be okay to play. So we probably won't even talk about Joe Burrow going forward. We got Daniel Jones. He's got a neck sprain. That's a severe injury. He's got a big history of neck sprains. He's 50-50 to play week 7. I personally, after seeing how good, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but how Taylor looked with that Giants offense against the Bills, like I'm not trying to rush Daniel Jones back.
Yeah.
And it's not a knock on Daniel Jones. It's just they actually have a competent backup quarterback who can do basically everything Daniel Jones can do. So I wouldn't be rushing him back. I would let him sit, wait till he's closer to 100%. But that's just me. I'm not the coach of the Giants.
Right, and it does help too that they had Saquon back, and I think that if it's most other defenses in the league, that probably could have been a very tight game. The Giants very possibly could have won that game, and Tyrod Taylor has been known throughout his entire career to be the guy that's not going to win you games, but he's probably not going to lose you games either. He doesn't turn the ball over. So really, that kind of offense is kind of great for that kind of quarterback. So not great for fantasy purposes by any stretch.
Great for NFL purposes, though. A couple of the guys we talked about last week, Anthony Richardson, he's going to be having season-ending surgery. He's got the AC strain. Sorry, Justin, listen, you can't be upset. You weren't even thrilled that they drafted him, okay?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it just helps us get a better draft pick. We weren't winning the Super Bowl with Richardson anyway.
So he's out. This is a big one, Justin Fields. He's been ruled out. He's got a right throwing thumb dislocation. According to the fantasy doctors, as we do every week, we get our information from the fantasydoctors.com. According to them, surgery is likely. It's probably going to go on the IR. So that's not good for Chicago Bears fans or those who have Justin Fields on their team. Jimmy Garoppolo, again, not a super big deal. I don't think anybody in fantasy was really relying on Jimmy Garoppolo outside of 2 quarterback leagues, and even then, he was probably a QB3. He's got a back injury. He went to the hospital to evaluate. There could be potential organ injury there. He is out this week. He is not playing either. And then the ones that they have that are 50-50, they've got Deshaun Watson. I know, Justin, and if you want to talk about him, I'll let you. I'm just kidding. I know you know. He's got a subscapularis injury. Week 7 to 9 return is what they have here. 50-50 to play this week. I've seen some news right before we started recording. Again, we're recording. It's 1:30 on Friday afternoon. So, this is the latest and greatest that we have here. He is doubtful to play. I'm not expecting him to play. I'm expecting to see P.J. Walker out there again. So that is a big one because I know people did draft Deshaun Watson to play in their fantasy leagues this year. So that's somebody you may have to potentially replace. 6 teams on a bye, that's going to be kind of rough. So you actually may dip into – I know I am in a super flex league. I'm dipping into P.J. Walker to play for me in my home league.
Well, I might add something else here too. Most of these guys that are out for this week or talking quarterback, of course, most of these guys that are out are lower end quarterbacks anyway. Now, I get Justin Fields kind of sucks at football, but he's actually been doing really well for fantasy. But most of them, like Deshaun Watson, the human predator, has been subpar for where he's drafted him at. He's been okay. Decent. He's been okay for a predator, not bad, but not great. Not great.
I wonder if he's going. It's like it's October. I wonder if Deshaun Watson's going as the predator for Halloween.
He's just going to go as himself. We got Jimmy G and Tannehill. I mean,
all lower tier quarterbacks.
Yeah. So I guess what Daniel Jones. My point here is for fantasy quarterbacks. We're only concerned about these guys in Superflex anyway. Yep. But remember, it's a Superflex. It doesn't have to be a quarterback. And I know that seems crazy to think because everybody's like, well, quarterbacks score so much more. Ryan Tannehill does not score so much more. Like, I'm in some leagues where it's super deep or it's super crazy, and I've already had injuries or whatever, and I'm already relying on Ryan Tannehill as my Superflex. I was already benching him for guys like Tyler Lockett if I was deep at wide receiver, So I mean, just look at your roster. If you're deep somewhere and you're benching players anyway, like if they're already startable players that you have to bench because you're deep, use them in your super flex. Like, it's not the end of the world. You're going up against a guy that has two quarterbacks starting. One of them could have a bad game, and then you just got a positional advantage by using a guy that's going to be consistent and is going to get you a guaranteed double digits. So utilize the fact that it's super flex. It's called super flex. It's not called two quarterback league, right? So this is one of those, once you hit these bye weeks, this is that time. This is that time to start considering that sort of stuff. So,
and if you do have one of those lower tier quarterbacks, consider trading them. Like, if you have a team that is in need of a quarterback, they got, their top two quarterbacks on a bye, maybe you can, swing a Tyler Lockett for one of these lesser quarterbacks, or an Adam Thielen for a lesser quarterback. I'd rather much play either one of them over these lower tier quarterbacks. Absolutely, no issue with that at all.
Yeah. All right. So some of these other guys, I'll knock them out just real quick. Josh Allen, right shoulder AC sprain. It's likely a type 1, which means it's not that big of a deal. It's usually just a pain tolerance thing. It says he should play. It does suck that it's his throwing shoulder, but at the same time, it's Josh Allen. He doesn't care about pain. And then let's see, we've got Baker Mayfield, bruised left hand. They're still awaiting an MRI, but it's his left hand. No big deal. He's going to play. Trevor Lawrence already played Thursday night, and his issue was a left knee sprain, and it looked like his left knee was just fine, as I think he either led the team or was really damn close to leading the team in rushing.
I think he led the team in rushing.
Yeah, and that was with Etienne getting you well over 20 fantasy points. So so he did a pretty good job himself. So Trevor Lawrence's knee is just fine. If his left knee is that bad, then his right knee must be phenomenal. Let's see. Derek Carr, we saw he was on the field. I don't know that I want to say he played, but he was on the field, right AC sprain. Let's just blame it on the shoulder. Pat Mahomes, simple left lateral ankle sprain, no concerns. Again, Pat Mahomes has played on a sprained ankle, so we're not going to worry about something that says simple in the details. For Pat Mahomes, he's going to play. He'll be fine. Left bone bruise. Actually, you know what? Let's not talk about that one. Justin Herbert, finger open fracture. So it's his non-throwing hand. Maybe might need surgery, but with it being the non-throwing hand, Justin Herbert's going to play. That sucks. It does suck because it says a finger open fracture. I'm pretty sure that means that's the one that the compound fracture breaks the skin. So I don't remember what an open fracture is, but it's his left hand. He's going to play. He should be fine. I think the biggest issue there is the pain tolerance when he gets the snap from the center, to be honest with you. Right knee sprain is minor for Geno. It's likely an MCL, but it looks like he's 100% to play at this point. Don't forget, guys, Kyler Murray. It's
He'll be back.
He should be back soon. I've seen reports that range anywhere from week 8 to week 12. Either way, that's before your fantasy playoffs. If you're already starting some of these other lesser quarterbacks that we were talking about, now's the time to go ahead and get Kyler, roster him, stash him, hold him, and then hopefully he can do just enough if you can squeak into the playoffs to help give you that playoff push, because he's still likely a top 15 quarterback. And I'm not just saying that because the fantasy doctor said that in the details right here. It's just, I mean, if Joshua Dobbs can do what he can do in that offense after being a career journeyman or a career backup, I can't imagine Kyler Murray's going to do much worse. There is still that chance that they could end up tanking if they continue to lose by the time he comes back, but you're not taking any chances if you're already starting Ryan Tannehill. So that's all I've got for the quarterbacks. Before we move on, I'll let you get started with the running backs in a second, George. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody, please do us a big favor. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe, ring the notification bell, drop in the comments, just pretty much anything you want to drop in the comments here just to help us with the algorithms. And make sure you're hitting us up on the Patreon. If you like what you see here, we have several shows all across the network, all throughout the week. Patreon.com/Title Tribe. Just do us that solid and come join our Patreon. There's a lot of perks, a lot of giveaways. We're working on giving away a nice big Yeti cooler right now. I mean, we're talking a few $100 value here. A nice big Yeti cooler. It's something special, but there's a lot that goes into that. We will announce more details on that as we get closer to that. But a couple of the guys in the chat, George and Rich, you guys came up with a pretty good idea for a way to give that away. So I'm excited about it. Once we get all the details worked out, it'll be official, but you'll want to be in the Patreon to be able to increase your odds of winning that Yeti cooler. And no, George, you are not eligible.
Man, I'm telling you, I'm leaving the team just so I can be eligible. This is bull. So,
well, hey, before you get started on the running backs, I think you're going to like today's giveaway. Anyway, go ahead.
So I want to cry because there's 6 teams on bye, and I'm looking at all the running backs in red, and it hurts my feelings. Yeah. So we'll start out with the RB1, Christian McCaffrey. He's got an oblique and a rib injury. Right now he's 50-50 to play. They got down an oblique strain and a rib injury. Chance to play week 7. Right now he's 50-50. From what I've seen, he is doubtful. Which really sucks because, in most leagues, he was, the first running back taken. He's been carrying it all year, just RB1 week after RB1 week. So that one really hurts. David Montgomery's got some rib cartilage injury. He's out week 7, likely through their bye week. So he's completely out this week, which also sucks because, again, David Montgomery, you drafted him late. He's been a league winner for you. Yeah. Kyron Williams, another guy you either drafted super late or you probably picked him up off waivers. He's got an ankle injury. He's got an ankle sprain, likely moderate lateral, possible high ankle sprain. He's completely out this week. Damian Harris from Buffalo, he's got a neck and a concussion. This was kind of scary. They had to bring the ambulance in on the field to escort him to the hospital. Thankfully, before he left the field, he gave the thumbs up. There was reports he had movement in all his extremities, so that is absolutely fantastic. Miami, Devonte Adams, right knee. He's got a grade 2 MCL meniscus. Miami put him on IR, so he won't be back for another 3 weeks. He's going to have to miss 4 games. James Conner, he's got a knee injury. He's on short-term IR, so he's out. Khalil Herbert, he's got an ankle injury. He was put on short-term IR. He's completely out. Up in Detroit, you already got David Montgomery out. Now you're talking about the backup to him, who would take his role if Montgomery was out, would be Craig Reynolds. He's got a toe and hamstring. He's got a new hamstring strain plus turf toe. He's 50-50 to play. I expect him to play, but I think Jahmyr Gibbs is actually going to get the opportunity that the fantasy community has been just dying for him to get. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom of the list, Justin. Elijah Mitchell, San Francisco. They put him on short-term IR, so now he is out. So you're talking missing, your RB1 and your RB2 there in San Francisco. Ronnie Rivers for the Los Angeles Rams. He was Kyron Williams' backup. We already talked about Kyron Williams being out. Now the backup is out as well. Ronnie Rivers, he's been placed on short-term IR. He's got a grade 3 PCL. It's likely season ending, to be honest. Jeff Wilson in Miami.
Hey, before you get to Jeff Wilson, back on Elijah Mitchell, where are you seeing that he's on the short-term IR?
I didn't. I said Ronnie. I must have got him in.
I think you got the.
I took his name. I took his name, went over and went down, and kept going. So my mistake. Elijah Mitchell.
Elijah Mitchell's is just a knee injury in general, and the fantasy doctors are giving him 50-50, but he's not on short-term IR. Ronnie Rivers is.
Yep, that's my mistake. Looking at the list here, it's just the next line down, and that's what I read.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. I thought that was the case. I just want to make sure you didn't see another update that I missed.
Nope. That's just me being me. Miami, Jeff Wilson Jr. He's got an abdomen strain. He probably is actually going to play this week. Lord knows they could use some more depth at running back. And then Zach Charbonnet, he's got a hamstring issue. It's something that just popped up. He's 75% to play. Justin, I went over everybody who's basically in red. The only two that I missed, Jahmyr Gibbs, he's got a hamstring. He should play though. What does it say here? Hamstring strain late in week 5. I expect Jahmyr Gibbs to play. Like I think everybody is expecting him to play.
Yeah, they're giving him 50-50, but I think they're trying to be cautious. But with all the other injuries in that backfield, I don't think they can really afford to be too cautious as far as the Lions go. Another thing I want to say, though, about all these guys on short-term IR, George, you were able to confirm with me that Dr. Jesse Morris is going to be on in 2 weeks, right?
Yep. So not this Friday coming up, so not next week, the following week. He had something to do in Vegas, so he was unable to do next week.
I still don't understand what the hell Vegas has that TGIF can't offer him. But anyway, so Dr. Jesse Morris is coming on in a couple of weeks, and we greatly appreciate him, by the way. But this is right around the time that a lot of these guys are going to be in that last week of the short-term IR or just coming off of the short-term IR, and we might be able to get better heads up on how he feels about them moving forward through the rest of the season, or how quickly they'll be able to come back from the short-term IR. Because, like with Deonte Johnson, who we're going to be talking about in a moment with the wide receivers, he's coming off of his short-term IR, but he's in the 21-day window. We don't know if it's going to be week 8, week 9, week 10. Like there's a 3-week period in that window. So with these guys, all these running backs that have helped, like you said, league winners, you're going to be able to get a better idea and a better feel for when they're going to be able to come back, because we're going to have Dr. Jesse Morris on in 2 weeks. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But some of these other guys, you went through all the major injuries. Now I'm going to read through the
I got one.
Go ahead.
I got one more. This one does concern me. Roshan Johnson, he's been in the concussion protocol. He had a concussion not last week, but the week before. He missed last week, and he's still in the concussion protocol as of today. Not saying that he can't be cleared by either the end of today or tomorrow to play Sunday, but as of right now, he's going in week 2 of the concussion protocol. And that hit that he took didn't look like a very brutal hit, if I'm not mistaken. It just looked like a routine tackle. So when dealing with concussions, this is one thing that we have to remember. Like, not all concussions are the same. Not all hits are the same. Like, you can get a guy who gets absolutely just floored, gets his bell rung, and doesn't have a concussion. And then you can get a guy who just has a routine tackle and hits his head. And, he's going in week 2 now of the concussion protocol and potentially going to miss a second game because of how severe the concussion was. So when dealing with concussions, just don't expect all concussions to be the same. They were talking about concussion protocols last week on one of the shows I was watching, and they said so far this year there have been like 17 or 18 players who have actually entered into concussion protocol, and only 3 or 4 of them have actually cleared to play the next week. So that's just another thing to realize when dealing with concussions is when these guys go into concussion protocol, most likely they're going to be out the next week. It's no longer, they'll be fine in 3 or 4 days and be ready to suit up by next week. That has not been the trend at all.
Yeah. And when it comes to concussions, like on a fantasy football end, that's where we become actual human beings. And we're like, man, it's a concussion. I'd rather my guy sit out another week, let him be great, let him be good on the health end. And then I'll worry about my fantasy team. But for what it's worth, I think Roshan Johnson's probably the most talented back in that backfield. So I really wish that Eberflus and that coaching staff would decide to actually utilize him a little better, or at all would be great. But obviously after he's completely healthy and healed from his concussion, I think he'll have that opportunity. So, all right. So some of the other bigger names that we didn't quite hit on, Ramondre Stevenson looks like he's probably going to be in, and that's an ankle injury, but no real specific details, but likely mild. Let's see, Javonte Williams, hip flexor. It's one of those, we talked about it either last week or on Tuesday's show, but it's a Oh, wait, it wasn't last week because I wasn't on with you last week. We talked about this Tuesday night, John and I, on the flagship show. It says that he's getting better with it each week. This was a compensation injury, which means he was he was favoring the other injury that might likely have caused this hip injury. Austin Eckler is most likely in 100% according to the fantasy doctors. High ankle, but likely mild. Only getting healthier every week. I believe Eckler played last week as well. So the fact that he did play last week and did well, I mean, he's going to be in. Saquon, same with Saquon. He's going to be in this week. Let's see. Miles Sanders is on bye, but it's a new shoulder injury for Miles Sanders. We still don't have any details, but these teams that are on bye, usually we don't get a whole lot of details that first week because they just want them to rest up, do a little rehab. They don't need to push out information by the NFL standards, so they don't push out the information. They're on bye. The same for Tony Pollard, another AC sprain. We're seeing a lot of AC sprains this season. Yep. In most cases, as long as it's a level 1 or 2, then it's just a pain tolerance thing, and the guys are usually going to play. But with Breece Hall, this one's a little bit different. This is post ACL, still not 100% yet. That's it. Like, that's all they wanted to report on. He's on bye this week. He's still not 100%. How insane is that? That Breece Hall is able to do what he's been doing this quickly off of an ACL instead of, normally it's almost a full year out. And then it's about another 6 months before they're in football playing shape. This guy's he's going to be a monster in the NFL. And then Dameon Pierce is a knee injury, mild. They're talking about a committee there, very likely, but I don't think your running backs for Houston are guys that you're playing on a regular basis anyway. Dameon Pierce has had games, but he's on bye this week anyway. Najee Harris is in. Keaton Mitchell is in. Keaton Mitchell is the young back for Baltimore that's returning from IR. And a lot of people went out and picked him up off of waivers. They're expecting him to be able to eat away at that committee back there. But I think he just adds more confusion to the committee personally. So I try to avoid that committee if I can. But if I have to have one, for me, it's Gus Edwards. Just because he's Gus, he reminds me of the big fat mouse on Cinderella. So he gets the edge there for that reason and that reason alone. Let's see. I'll run through the wide. No, yeah.
The only running back I didn't touch on was Aaron Jones, which I should have mentioned him because he's one of the better running backs to have. He's got a hamstring injury. He suffered it. He re-injured it before week 5. They have him as a 50-50 chance to play this week. I think he plays this week. So if you got Aaron Jones, I believe they're playing the Denver Broncos, which should be a great matchup with all these guys out, all these guys on bye. If you have Aaron Jones, I would feel comfortable firing him up.
Yeah, and they know A.J. Dillon isn't the answer, and they're coming off of the bye, so he should be healthier. So, I'm with you on that one. Wide receivers, I'll read the guys that are definitely in here. Devonte Smith, they're saying he's in, but guys, remember what I've been saying for the last 3 weeks. This is the beginning of the end for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm not saying the end like they're going to be crap and done, but they're not going to be able to produce fantasy purposes like they have been playing underwater basket weaving university for the first 6 weeks of the season. All right. They're going to start finally playing good teams. And Miami kicks this off. So be cautious with guys like Devonte Smith. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is still going to get his. A.J. Brown is likely still going to get his. Swift will probably even still do decent compared to where you drafted him at. But overall, you're going to see a dip in these numbers. So be prepared for that and maybe even trade off some of these guys. If you don't believe me, look at their schedule coming up. We don't have time to get into that right now. But this is if a guy like this, that's already a fringe guy, in my opinion, has a new hamstring strain. He didn't practice on Wednesday. Monitor closely. If he plays, it might be a little iffy to play him for fantasy purposes. So, yeah, he might play, but start looking at other options. Tyler Lockett, 75% to play, but It also says that he's most likely in. He's a guy I talked about earlier as one of those wide receiver 3 type of guys that have the potential to have big games that you could use as a super flex if you're deep at wide receiver. Cooper Kupp, possible right ankle sprain. It's the same high ankle, or it's the same as a high ankle. This is the same ankle sprain as the high ankle that he had last season, I believe is what they're getting at.
Yeah.
So if it's the same one, also this could be another one of those where he was kind of overcompensating for the hamstring as well. 30-plus-year-old wide receiver that was already having a difficult time coming off of a hamstring injury. That's why they put him on IR to let it heal over 4 weeks. They came back and played great. Don't get me wrong. He's still Cooper Kupp. If he plays, if he's in, you're playing him. But you got to be careful with that. Tyreek Hill is in. All his issues have been cramping. I think there's been 3 different games this year where he's gotten cramps during the game. He usually goes back in.
He does. If you watch the games, he does so much movement before the snap. Like he can't get enough fluid in him. He just cramps every game. They send him back, give him an IV, put some fluids in him. He goes right back out in the game.
Yeah, he's a monster. Hip flexor for DK Metcalf. Speaking of monsters, minimal concern on DK Metcalf. Chris Olave did play this week, and he actually did pretty decent considering he didn't have a very, very great quarterback play. We're
not going to get into it now, but I think Chris Olave quit on a lot of those routes.
Yeah, well, there was one in particular that I think he just straight up didn't realize that Carr was going to going deep. I think there's a lot of communication issues there.
There is.
In that
new offense, new quarterback, new system. It's still a learning curve there, but man, Chris Olave, like the effort just was not there.
Yeah. Let's see. Devonte Adams likely in 100%. AC sprain and dislocation, pain and dip in performance. And we saw it last week. He definitely had a dip in performance last week. That's for sure.
Yep.
And normally he's quarterback proof. So I'm not blaming that one on the quarterback because normally Devonte Adams is quarterback proof. It was also a matchup issue. He had a tough matchup. But I'm skeptic of Devonte Adams until he starts to heal up a little bit. Jacoby Myers is in. It was a wrist sprain for him. He's getting better week to week. Let's see. Juju is out of it says he's still in the concussion protocol, but they have him listed as in. So I would imagine that they just are anticipating that he'll be out of the protocol by then. Amon-Ra St. Brown, abdomen strain, is in. Christian Watson is in. Brandon Ayuk is in. Mike Evans is in. Jordan Addison is in. Let's see. Amari Cooper is in. Odell is in. Those are the big names right there, George. All of those guys are in. You're starting most likely all of those except maybe Odell. I don't know why I mentioned him. I think I just got a little carried away. But you are starting most of them. And also there's a couple of these guys that are kind of like fringe guys, like say Amari Cooper or I'll go ahead and talk about Deontay Johnson. They're saying he's eligible to return in week 7. They still have him listed as 0% possibility to play, but then on another list, they got him listed as in. I don't really know how to take that, but he's one of those guys along with, say, Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson, guys that are having like little injury concerns, and maybe you have other options that are fringe players, and you got questions about whether or not you should play them or not. Make sure you tune in to George and Jason and Rich on Sunday morning from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. because they have a start-sit show where they have they've got the schedule pulled up. They've got weather reports pulled up. They know the ins and outs of what's going on with their matchups. George writes a 75-page report on the games are going to be like that week. So like a very in-depth analysis from these guys on Sunday mornings. And if you knew them personally, you wouldn't think that they were that deep. But when it comes to football, they are. But make sure you tune in, watch those guys on Sunday morning and ask them, hey, should I start Amari Cooper or Deontay Johnson over a guy like, I don't know, say Tank Dell or, he's probably a bad example.
He's on bye, so I probably wouldn't start Tank Dell.
or over maybe Michael Pittman, who has a tough matchup this week or something like that. But ask those guys because they'll be able to give you the answers. But, George, what do you got for us on the bye weekend and other guys that are definitely out?
So the guys that are out on bye, I'll hit them real quick because you're not starting them. Garrett Wilson, he's got a right ankle sprain. Jets really haven't given any details. They're not required to because they're on a bye. DeAndre Hopkins has a hand injury to his right hand. We're still awaiting details. Again, he's on a bye. Nobody's playing him this week. And they don't have to give any details. T. Higgins has got a rib fracture. He's been dealing with this for a while. He's on a bye, so we don't have to really worry about this week. We mentioned Tank Dell's on a bye. He's also in the concussion protocol. They may not clear him this week. There's really no rush to, so why would they? And the last one is that's on a bye is Treylon Burks. He's got a knee injury. His left knee has been bothering him. It seems like a chronic issue with him. The fantasy doctors recommend trying to trade him or sell him. I'm not sure exactly what you're going to get for him at this point. So especially if Ryan Tannehill is not the quarterback and it's Malik Davis. So I don't know. Justin Jefferson is completely out. He's on short-term IR. We talked about that last week. If you can, go ahead and trade for him because he should be back. Especially if you're a team that's like 4-2, 5-1, 6-0. Like, yes, trade for Justin Jefferson. Get him on your roster for your to come back right before your playoff push. Zay Jones, listen, Jacksonville played last night. He did not play. He's re-injured his MCL and PCL. He's going to be out likely 2 to 4 weeks. Demario Douglas is in the concussion protocol. That's not that big of a deal. We talked about Deontay Johnson already. He's in the 21-day window. Nobody really cares about Laviska Shenault or Justin Watson. So, Justin, we can move right on into tight ends. I'll go over the ones that are out real quick. Okay. Pat Freiermuth is out. That's been confirmed today. He had a setback to his hamstring on 10/19, so they got him likely out week 6, 7, and 8, and it's already been confirmed that he's out today. Juwan Johnson, they played last night. He was out. He did not play. He's currently dealing with an injury to his calf. They say he's going to likely be out another 2 to 4 weeks. And the last one they have here with a 50% chance to play is Greg Dulcich, who's dealing with his hamstring, returning from IR. He re-injured, and they potentially back to IR. So he came off IR, re-injured his hamstring. Now they're talking about they might send him back to IR. So those are the ones I have in red. Those are the guys that are probably not going to be playing. Do you want to go ahead and hit the ones that are more likely to play?
I do want to talk a little bit about Juwan Johnson's situation as far as for fantasy purposes because, guys, Taysom Hill is one of those guys that's going to get a lot of yards per touch, and he has a higher percentage of a touchdown than most other players in the NFL when he touches the ball. He just never gets to touch the ball. But we've noticed the last couple of weeks with Juwan Johnson out, he's on the field more. Well, if he's on the field more and you're Derek Carr, you don't care about the coaching staff not utilizing him. You're going to give him the ball, okay? And so he's starting to score fantasy points for you because he's a playmaker. So don't be afraid to get Taysom Hill right now and start him, especially in those leagues where you can start him as a quarterback or a tight end because now because depending on the format, some formats allow you to start him as a quarterback. I mean, now he's a super flex, which I guess for super flex purposes, you could as a tight end as well anyway. But if you're that super desperate, he might even be your QB1 if you absolutely have to.
Here's his stat line from last night. 5 carries, 18 yards, 1 touchdown. He had 5 targets, 4 receptions, 50 yards. Scored me 14.8 points in a full PPR league. I mean, that's
a top 10 tight end.
Yep, and he's running the ball. He's playing quarterback, playing tight end like he does all 3 positions. So it's a cheat code.
Yeah. All right. So any other injuries that might be a concern would be Dallas Goedert, groin strain, likely to play though. He's at 50-50. Hunter Henry, likely a mild lateral sprain. it's not super concerning according to the fantasy doctors. But it's also Hunter Henry. He's either boom or bust. So if he has an injury that might keep him down a little, I'm thinking it might be a bust week. So just be cautious. Only start Hunter Henry if you have to. Other big names, Darren Waller is in. Sam Laporta is in. He played last week. I see him. He should have a little bit of a bounce back this week, even though it's a tougher matchup. But then next week, he should be able to bounce completely back, as I believe he faces your Dolphins the next week, right?
Nope.
No, maybe
we don't play Detroit this year.
Oh, okay. Let's see. It is a good matchup for tight ends, at least in a couple of weeks. So, and then it should be full on Laporta after that. Let's see. Travis Kelce is in because it's Travis Kelce. He could be missing a leg, and you're still starting him. Let's see. That's really it for any of the big major names on there.
So just throw it back. Sam Laporta plays the Chargers. That's what you're thinking of.
What's that?
Sam Laporta plays the Chargers next week. That's what you're
okay. There you go. That's definitely a sweet matchup for tight ends. All right, so we're going to we're going to give away the hat to the supporters that commented. All right, so let me share my screen here, and Blues Big City Adventure is not a sponsor, so get off my screen. All right, so here's what I did. Everybody that commented automatically got thrown on here. George, I decided to throw your name on here as well because you did the solo show. Normally our T2T members are not eligible, but this isn't the flagship show. This is my own little personal giveaway. Like, I didn't use the company funds for the hat. I didn't do it. Like, this is all me. I just want to give this hat away to somebody. So T2T members that commented are also on here. You will notice some names on here twice, and that's because they are non-T2T members that are also Patreon supporters. So I threw their names on here twice. But we're going to shuffle this 3 times, spin the wheel, and I don't care who it is. They're getting the hat, even if George says, no, I don't want it. I want you to give it to a supporter because, George, if you win, you earned it. So we're going to shuffle it 3 times and spin the wheel.
No whammy, no whammy, no whammy, no whammy.
Oh, this is awesome. Emmett, my man Emmett. So for those of you that don't know, Emmett is actually Coach Shep's son. Yep. He has his own YouTube channel as well. So make sure you check out Emmett's Everything Show, I think is what it is.
I got to go subscribe to that. I didn't realize Emmett had his own channel.
Yeah, I think it's called Emmett Does Everything or Emmett's Everything Show or something like that. But yeah, that's awesome. So Emmett, thank you for commenting. So glad that you were able to win a Toyless Titles hat. I'll make sure to get that sent. I wish I would have known because I just sent something out to your dad earlier today, so I could have put it all in the same package and saved some shipping. But that's all right. That's all right. I'll get it out next week to you though, buddy. But George, you have anything else that you want to throw out there?
No, I'm glad you're back. Doing a solo show is definitely no fun. I just want to point out that last week we did 64 players that were injured, and this week we went over a total of 87. So it's the NFL. Injuries happen. We don't like having to talk about them, but it's a necessary evil. And I mean, it's that time of the year, folks. Players are getting banged up. Bye weeks cannot get here fast enough for a lot of these teams. I just pray that, the injuries are not super severe and that, the players themselves are okay and they don't have any long-term lingering effects.
Yep. I've been toying around with the idea of making this show a Patreon only show as well. So we might, if the injuries continue to get deeper and deeper, we might split this off into a 2-parter and do certain injuries just for the Patreons as well. So again, that's something else you want to consider if you're considering the Patreon. That's patreon.com/toylessititles. But we appreciate all the support. There will always still at least be a free injury news at some level, even if it's just on the Gilded, which is also free. I know I mentioned it earlier, but reach out to one of us. We can get you into the Gilded as well. But for George, I'm Justin. We thank you very much for tuning in. And here's a little sweet outro music for you on our way out.
Oh,